Hi Stouffville, this is Charlene with 102.7 FM Whistle Radio for Off the Top. I'm here with the WCDR. We have monthly meetings at the beautiful Ajax Convention.
It's the convention center.
Yeah. It's the convention center, the Ajax Convention Center.
Woohoo!
You're just hearing from A.B. Funkhauser, is that correct?
That's me, das bin ich.
Are you bilingual?
Absolutely not. I am very adept at speaking with accent because this is what I grew up with. These are my people. But no, I can't speak a word of it.
Like me, you are biliterate.
Basically, yes. And I think, this is why a lot of my characters are German. They're German speakers. They're fluent, which presented a problem right up front. You can't rely on translator. If you're going to put so much work into your novel, into your characterizations, you can't have them speaking childish German. You have to have idiomatic German. And so very quickly I found some very wonderful, capable German speakers who put everything into idiom for me.
Isn't that exciting? That's wonderful. How long have you been writing?
I started 5 years ago. And I'll tell you right now, I never set out to be a writer. I had no idea that it was in me. It picked me. I had what's called a memento mori, basically an object signifying death. It knocked me on the head. I started to write, and now I can't shut up.
Well, there are a couple of things that are coming quickly to my mind about this story you've just told us, which is the first is that you are a mortician by profession. Is that correct?
I am indeed. Now, in the province of Ontario, we like to call ourselves funeral directors, but I don't shy away from the mortician term. Funeral director is an old term. It's been around for a long time, but mortician drives home what we do. And there are many sides to this business, many facets to this world. It's a closed world, and this is why...
Closed casket, I'm sorry, I had to say that. It's a very bad pun, but I have to say it. Sorry.
No, certainly that's a part of it too, but this was one of the motivators for writing. When you've got a closed world, like ours, there's a lot of misunderstanding. And I was driven by a desire to let people know that we are human beings, and that we're not ghoulish or scary.
Oh.
That we actually do have a sense of humor amongst ourselves. You have to have that lightness, like the movie, The Incredible Lightness of Being. You must have that lightness or you can't stick with it.
Yes. What brought you to it?
Okay, that was like the writing. It was a calling. It really, really was. When I was 11, my grandmother passed away after years of illness. I come from an Eastern European background, so death was not hidden from us. At 11, I was taken to the funeral parlor, and in our tradition, 3 days of visiting. And over the course of that first visit there, I was fascinated by the place. The chandeliers, the furnishings, what the funeral directors wore, their costumes, and I wanted to know more. Of course, when I told my parents that I wanted to do this work, they said, absolutely not. That's not the work that you should be doing. It's unhappy work. It'll be hard on your mind. Do something else. So I did. And at 39, I got a job as a funeral director's assistant at a funeral home to try it on, to see what it was about. And a year after working in it, I decided to apply to mortuary school, Humber College, North Campus, and I was accepted. And at 41, I was licensed and began working.
Isn't that wonderful? Now, did you actually work on the corpses, or you are more the director at the front who helps people who come in the door? Or what does that mean that you're licensed?
The business is two-sided. We care for the deceased person, and we care for the bereaved, so the living and the dead. Different funeral homes, different funeral service providers will structure their businesses accordingly. Sometimes you are just an arranging director, so you are dealing with the families. Some of us are simply embalmers. We care for the dead. In other places, you do both. And I worked for a family-run funeral home, and we did everything. So if the phone rang and I answered and it was a bereaved person telling me that their loved one had died, I would make the arrangements to meet with them. Afterwards, I would go and collect their loved one from hospital, morgue, prepare them, and then take out the funeral. So, yeah.
Fascinating.
Yep.
And do you mind sharing what the moment was? You mentioned a momentum morti, I think you called it?
Memento mori, yes. What happened was I knew someone, a close friend, and it was a surprise to all of us, as is often the case. He took his own life. He committed suicide. Mm-hmm. We were devastated. He was a brother mortician. We worked side by side, and he was gone. Just like that. And I was on vacation. I was out of the country. I couldn't get to him. I missed his funeral. And then I started to think, well, who cared for him? And what would that be like to have to care for, prepare someone that you know and love? How do you keep your wits or don't? How does that affect you? And so that's what got me to thinking, and that's ultimately what sparked the book.
That's exciting. And what is the book called?
It's called Hoyer, Lost and Found. And I know right off the top I was told Hoyer, it's spelled H-E-U-E-R, like the watch, Tag Heuer. The publisher said, well, people are going to have a hard time pronouncing it. And that's why on the very first page I say Hoyer as in lawyer, Hoyer the lawyer. And in fact, he is.
I see. And so Hoyer is a German name?
It is. There's that axiom in the writing profession that says, in many professions, really, they'll say, stick with what you know.
Exactly.
And I believe that is so true, because to be authentic, why not write what you know? My background is German, funeral home, the life of the mortician, middle-aged or past. I'm turning 50 next month, hooray! So, what's that like, going through the change? These are the things that I explore in the book. And of course, how the female funeral director reacts when she learns that Hoyer, her Hoyer, has passed away and that she is next on the roster to care for his remains.
To care for him, yes.
Yes.
So you are fulfilling something that you didn't get to do, and in that way...
That must be what's at work here. To find some peace, to find some relief. And that speaks to the title too. Hoyer, Lost and Found. He is lost, and finally she finds him. She comes to grips with what's happened. She understands. And then release. She lets him go. And that's an important theme. You have to let go, because when you do, they're with you forever. There's a paradox there. And just like my friend, I think about him often. He is always with me, and I will never forget him.
Oh, no. The ones who take up residence in our hearts, they never do. They never leave. And that we have to learn to get the appropriate room for them.
Yes.
In our psyches.
Absolutely.
And they move. Some rooms are, these are my memories of this person. Some of the rooms are, this is what their transition needed to be for them to leave this existence.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the rooms are, this is where I would have liked us to have gone. Mm-hmm. Some of the rooms are, we didn't quite do this, and then there was that turn in our relationship. And there are endless rooms that these people who we love can occupy in our psyches.
Charlene, you're hitting all the themes here. One of the things that she says is with reference to the past, how it was, how it should have been, and how it will be remembered for all time. Nostalgia, looking at the past. Nostalgia is terrific. The past is wonderful as long as you don't stay there for too long. Yes. Now and forward. Always look ahead. Don't bog down. Keep going forward. Letter 2. Rooms. You talk about rooms. The basement of the funeral home is packed with mementos, old furniture. The house this man dies in is packed with his memories, old newspapers, the things that we accumulate that are so important, our treasures, and yet to other people they're junk. And why do we keep these things? It's all there.
Is your protagonist a bit of a hoarder?
He is.
Nailed it.
He is. He's a middle-aged man. He is always a worker bee. He's so driven. Lives for his work. No family, no wife, no exes, no girlfriend, no boyfriend. It's just his home, his treasures, and his work. That's what he leaves behind. And it drives her crazy because it would be so much easier if there was a wife or a girlfriend or a lover, someone to mourn him. But because there isn't, she starts to mourn him, and she feels guilty because she has this terrific husband, Aaron, and she feels that she's doing Aaron a tremendous disservice by mourning this man, but he needs to be mourned. So
that is an interesting conflict.
Yeah.
That is an interesting psychological place of stress. And I find it fascinating because I can feel that this woman is going to grow to a place where she can accept both, but it can't happen in the first place.
Oh, yeah, no, it's a difficult road to go down, and it's really crowded. It gets very, very crowded. You have false memories to deal with, too. She hasn't seen him in 20 years. And so as she starts to think back, she will check with her friends and say, do you remember that party? He was there, right? And her friend says, well, you know, that was so many vintages ago. And she's refilling her Chablis glass. Right. She says, I don't remember. Mm-hmm. And so then she makes up her mind, well, yes, I think he was there. But maybe he wasn't. These are her memories.
Oh, memory is such a fabulous chimera.
Chimera, indeed. It plays with you. And that is why. Okay, in the end, she says, this is how I'll remember you.
She makes up her mind, this is how it's going to be,
Yep.
even it's in the past, and even if it isn't quite accurate. Well, that's memoir rather than biography or autobiography, right? That's the joy of having memories, I think, in the first place.
It is, and yet I have to be very clear here. The book is not memoir.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's fiction.
It's adult contemporary fiction. Mm-hmm. My publisher is still trying to figure out what genre it fits into. It has romantic elements. It has certainly paranormal elements. It's dotted with humor. I'm happy to say that there is very erudite, Latin-speaking rat character, and he is a rat. Also, there is a lamp, a spirit guide, and she's a handful too. She's got plenty to say in many different languages. So there is that element of whimsy too.
So it is a unique and eccentric in the most positive way of hearing that word, work.
I found it was the only way I could take a very difficult subject and make it easier. What I didn't want was melodrama. I had to have that levity, but how? It's a sensitive matter. You don't want to appear to be flip about the profession or the deceased person.
No, of course not.
And let me be clear again too, he is a made-up person. This is not my friend who passed away. This is a made-up person.
Yes.
And so he's really eccentric, and of course he's spooking around the funeral home, wisecracking, making comments. He's trapped, you see,
yes.
And he has to get out.
Yes.
But he's going to need the funeral director's help, and he's going to need that wisecracking spirit guide, the big mouth lamp, and she is a floor lamp.
Isn't that exciting? I'm going to ask you, when we come back, we're going to have a short commercial break, but when we come back, I want to ask you what your take is on 6 Feet Under.
Sure.
Just don't go away. Do not go away.